Ladies and gentlemen, also then the honorary award, the Protein Research Foundation hereby bestows its highest honorary award on Leonardo Daniel Ploper, EEAOC, for pioneering work done towards promoting the South African soybean industry, as well as for his ongoing help and support, and it's signed here on the 8th of October in Johannesburg. Dr. Ploper, thank you very much. It's nice to be friends with you. I want to shake.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. First of all, my apologies for not being able to speak Afrikaner, and therefore the whole speech had to be delivered in English, so I apologize. Probably I should have learned already at least some words in Afrikaner, but let me just first thank the PRF, really, and you, Mr. Chairman, for this award, and I will speak on behalf of Mario Devani and myself. It is really a great honor and a tremendous privilege to receive this award, especially from this institution that you've so much have explained and has done so much for developing protein crops in South Africa. Mario and I have been working a long time with soybeans. I've been over nearly 40 years, and Mario over 30 years now working with soybeans. So really, believe me, soybeans is our passions, soybean crop. Mario in the breeding and the agronomy side, myself on the pathology. So it wasn't really a great effort to come here and share our passion and our effort with you. It's been our privilege from the very beginning. As the chairman here was mentioning, this story really starts in 2009 in China, far away from here. It didn't start in Tucumán or in Johannesburg. It started in China when, as the chairman said, I was a member of the continuing committee, at that time just a member, and we had to vote for the venue for the following conference, for the 9th soybean conference. And the choices were South Africa or the US. And at that time, many of the members of that committee felt that it was time for the conference to go back to the US. That the previous one had been held in 1999. So they said 10 years plus 4, 14 years, it's time to go back to the US. And some of the other members, we felt that no, it was just going to be another conference in the US. We felt that it would have a major impact if we could bring the conference to South Africa, considering that the continent, the African continent, needs so much protein, and also considering that it's one of the few places in the world where there is land available for agriculture. So we decided, we voted, fortunately we were able to convince, and we decided that South Africa be the venue for the 9th soybean conference. The following day, I was selected chairman of that committee. So really, all the responsibility came on my side to make sure that we had a successful conference. So I was very worried when I received Gerhard Scholtemeyer's visit in Tucumán in April 2010, and he posed some questions and some doubts about the conference in South Africa. So we said, well, let's start working together and make a successful conference. So at that time, he visited me at the station, and I won't speak about the EEAOC, but I'll just mention that it's the oldest agricultural experiment station in Argentina. It just turned 106 years. And I was the director, I'm still the director of that station. And it's very unique because it's a public institution. It belongs to the government of the province of Tucumán, but it is funded by the growers and directed by the growers. We have a board of directors with representatives from the different commodities that support the station. So at that time, I showed the station around. It was a Saturday, so we didn't have too much activity, but I showed him the station and also mentioned to him that we had a relatively successful soybean breeding program. In fact, our institution is the only public institution in Argentina that has commercial soybean cultivars. And at that time, we had about 10% of the area was grown with our cultivars. I also mentioned to him that we were very successful in Bolivia, where still 60% of the area is grown with our materials. And we also have materials in Brazil. So he became interested, of course, because he had established agreements with other institutions in Argentina. So when I came here in September of 2010, I brought our first batch of cultivars, 11 cultivars, just to make sure we studied the adaptation of the different maturity groups. We planted them at 4 locations with the great help of Javi De Beer and Wessel Van Wyk, and also evaluated them with Jos de Kock and Jan Dreyer. And we were able to, of course, based on those results, able to select which materials to test next. So the following year, we sent a batch of about 30 cultivars, and for the following 4 years, 4 seasons, that is the 11-12, 12-13, 13-14, and 14-15 seasons, we were able to evaluate them, and at 5 to 6 locations. And by the end of the 13-14 season, we selected 5 cultivars that have been registered already. Previously, we established an agreement with Sensaco, a company here, a local company, that did all the registration procedure and that will commercialize our materials. And then after the last season, which is the 14-15, we selected another group of 5 materials that will probably turn into materials. So I remember at our first meeting in September 2010, the people of the PRF mentioned there were, 300, 400,000 hectares. The goal was to achieve 1 million hectares. But they also mentioned something about the yields. And we mentioned that we should also try to increase yields. At that time, the average was 1.8 tons per hectare. And I said, well, we can easily go, we felt confident that we can go to 2.8. But of course, genetics and having new genotypes, new soybean cultivars, is just one part of the story. We mentioned, and after our first trip we confirmed, we mentioned that we needed here some improvements in terms of crop management, and especially soil management and water management. And we mentioned that here you had a nice equation because it was an opportunity to do crop rotation with maize, which in our country is the other way around. We have monoculture of soybeans, and it's hard to convince people to grow maize. So we said we felt confidence that with the proper cultivars and with the proper crop management, we are able to go, we'd increase at least 1 ton. And we'll see how it goes with these new cultivars. So all these years coming here and going through the evaluations, we had a chance to interact with the PRF technical staff, comment our impressions, give some advice. Of course, it's just an advice from somebody that comes often, but at least another point of view. So we shared that experience. And this is not the end of the road. We start a new set of materials evaluating that will start next growing season. We will try also to provide management practices and recommendations for the new cultivars. And of course, this has all, like Gerhard Skoltemeyer mentioned, this has also been, we've also done a lot of effort, not only with the soybean conference in 2013, which required a lot of involvement, but also trying to to share our experience with South African scientists that visit us. So again, for me, it's a great pleasure to receive this award. My congratulations. Coming from a centennial institution, I know all the thing that goes into preparation of this conference, and I wish all of you a great evening. Thank you very much.
I'll swap you. Thank you. I'll take the mic and you take your. Thank you, Daniel. Appreciate it. Now, you know why I don't only call him a soy scientist ambassador, but also a good friend. Certainly, they are our very good friends. Ladies and gentlemen, the last on the agenda, you've heard several references being made to Dr. Rudolf Bigalki, the first chairman of the Protein Research Foundation. And as I said, he served on the board as chairman from 1990 to 2000. And that was a period which virtually every step of the PRF, every step we took was new. There was no real similar experience by anyone. And what he had was 10 senior people around the table, all hailing from different disciplines. And I think each one initially with his own agenda as well. And he will agree that it certainly wasn't very easy to mold together the business, the farmers, and the government approaches. Now, to us as board members who served with him, he was always the real gentleman, the wise and very knowledgeable. We all looked up to him, and certainly with great respect. And with the benefit of hindsight, we wish to thank you, Dr. Bigalki, for the sound foundation with which we could carry on after your resignation in 2000. In the first 10 years up to 2000, no board member ever received an award, and we are delighted that tonight we can present him with the following well-earned award for everything he did for the PRF. Ladies and gentlemen, eretoekenning, die Protein Navorsingsstichting vereer Rudolf Bigalki met 'n spesiale eretoekenning vir sy besondere bydrae as voorsitter van die Protein Navorsingsstichting vir 'n ononderbroke tydperk vanaf 1990 tot 2000, geteken ook vandag. Dr. Bigalki, baie dankie, dis 'n groot voorreg om u hier te hê vanaand. Baie dankie vir alles wat u vir ons gedoen het. Die manne wil foto's. Hoe staan alle manne? Draai hem.
Mr. Skoltemeyer, ladies and gentlemen, I did not expect this, not at all. So what I have to do now is to think on my feet. And as you might realize at this stage, I prefer to sit down and not to think. This reminds me of my father, who used to say many years ago, I think he had no faith in me, probably not. Sometimes he sits and thinks, but most times he just sits. You know, I can speak a long time about the PRF, as it is called today, but I'm not going to do that. It is, in fact, wonderful to be able to be a member, if I may say so, of a winning team, the PRF. Now, if I say I am a member, that is not quite correct. I was a member. But it is wonderful to be able to bask in the glory of such an organization. And I am indeed grateful for this award, and also for the fact that you have invited me to this function my wife, myself, we appreciate it tremendously. Thank you.
Mr. Scholtemeijer, members of the board, thank you very much for the privilege to be able to be here tonight and to say a few words on behalf of the Old Boys Club. I haven't tried to count the old boys. There are not too many of them. I think we've outlived most of them. But be that as it may, on behalf of the few ones here, I think I want to say a few words of thanks. Nowadays in South Africa, if you speak in public, you have to be very careful to talk politically correct. You also have to be careful not to violate the Constitution. And you also have to be gender friendly. Now I've already transgressed on that. I've mentioned the Old Boys Club. There were many fair ladies involved in our activities over the past number of years. So I'd like to find another word for Old Boys Club. I'm still working on that, but I haven't found it yet. You also have to be language friendly. Now, according to our Constitution, I really have to speak to you tonight in 11 different languages. And when I prepared myself for this, I thought, okay, no big deal. Let's go to a language library and see how do you say thank you in 11 different languages. It all went very well, up to the time that I came to the Bushman language, the Khoisan language. And I tried to find the right clicks for saying thank you. Now, it wasn't too difficult, but then if you want to say Protein Research Foundation in clicks, that is a tongue twister. And I found that my tongue would have to make a few bolomakissis before I can make those sounds. So I decided instead of doing that, what I'm going to do is summarize very briefly in English what I want to say in Afrikaans. And I hope that will satisfy most everybody, if not the Constitution. I want to say two things only, and that is, I want to congratulate the Protein Research Fund for still being on track as far as the objectives which were originally identified. 25 years more than 25 years ago. They are still on track, and they are still being a winning team. And the second thing I want to say is to thank them for inviting us here tonight. That is the gist of what I'm going to say in Afrikaans. Nou, ek het gesukkel om 'n woord te kry vir Old Boys Club, maar in Afrikaans het ons die woord garde, ons ou garde. Nou gelukkig is garde geslagneutraal. Jy kry gardes met baard en gardes sonder baard. En ek dink jy kry nog gardes ook van die ander klop. So, jy weet, dan sit ons almal ingesluit daarso en ek praat namens die ou garde. Nou, 'n mens se gedagte gaan terug na 25 jaar gelede. Toe die Proteïen Navorsing Advieskomitee, die PNAK, in werking was. Jy sal onthou, in daai dae was navorsing gratis gedoen. Maar dit is ook nie reg nie. Dit was nie gratis gedoen nie. Die staat het daarvoor betaal. En u en ek, die van ons wat belasting betaal, ons betaal daarvoor, maar ons het nie veel sê gehad in wat gebeur met daai geld en hoe word die navorsing gerig nie. 'n Advieskomitee, getrou aan die naam, kan maar net advies gee. Nou, ek gaan nou net vir 'n oomblik op 'n syspoor. Dit laat my dink aan die, kom ons sê nou maar die Bonsmara ossie. Daar in die kudde, ossie. Stap hy daar rond, gooi sy gewig 'n bietjie rond, stamp hier teen die versie en stamp daar teen 'n billetjie. Maar hy kan hoogstens in 'n raadgewende hoedanigheid optree. En sy resultate is van 0 en geen waarde. Die advieskomitee het geadviseer, hy kon nie regtig arm druk nie. Totdat hy besef het, maar ons moet 'n fonds in die lewe roep, ons moet 'n heffing daarstel. As jy 'n paar rand in die beursie het, het jy daarom so 'n bietjie meer krag tot jou beskikking. En so het daar in 1992 strukturele veranderinge in die departement plaasgevind. met die promulgering van die wet op landbounavorsing is die Landbounavorsingsraad geskep en was daar nou vir die eerste maal 'n staatsorganisasie wat navorsing kan doen teen betaling. Dit was 'n nuwe beginsel. Hierdie beginsel om fondse by jou kliënte te kry. Die kliënt betaal beginsel. En op daardie stadium was die universiteite reeds gewoon, Chris sal weet, om fondse te genereer, veral waar daar nagraadse studies betrokke was. Maar vir die L&R was dit 'n nuwe spel gewees hierdie. En ons het nie eintlik presies geweet hoe om hierdie spel te speel nie. Ons het te doen gehad met die PNT op daai stadium, wat verseker probeer het om sy fonds te beskerm. Aan die ander kant het jy die L&R gehad, wat probeer het om ooreenkomstig die wet fondse te genereer van buite af. Dit het aanleiding gegee tot so 'n bietjie van 'n armdrukkery. Ek wil net weer op 'n syspoor gaan. Die gebruikerbetaal beginsel was redelik nuut binne landbounavorsingsgeleedere, maar ook op ander terreine van die samelewing. En ek wil die verhaal vir u vertel. 'n Vriend van my is bevriend gewees met 'n hartspesialis. En die hartspesialis het ook maar met al hierdie veranderinge intussen tyd 'n kardioloog geword. Nou, kardioloog gee nie meer gratis tegniese advies nie. Maar my vriend loop sy kardioloog vriend raad en hulle staan op die sypaadjie en gesels. Hulle praat oor met hoeveel punte gaan die bokke Japan wen. En nadat hulle nou mekaar lekker opgewarm het, is dit tyd om te loop en hulle groet. En my vriend sê vir die kardioloog terloops, dink jy dit is wenslik dat hulle 'n sonarontleding van my hart doen? Die kardioloog antwoord ja, ek dink dit is wenslik. En 'n week later kry hy 'n spekvet rekening vir professionele advies gegee. Hy is te baie ontsteld en hy besluit hy gaan regsmening inwin, maak 'n afspraak met 'n prokureursfirma en op pad soontoe loop hy 'n ander vriend van hom raak wat toevallig 'n prokureur is. En hulle staan toe 'n wonderlek oor die slag van Japan wat nou pas afgeloop het en toe hulle klaar is, toe terloops vertel hy om die storie van die rekening wat hy gekry het en hy sê, dink jy die ou kan vir my 'n rekening stuur? Die prokureur antwoord, ja, hy kan, en wat is jou adres? Nou, dit is die beginsel van die gebruikerbetaalbeginsel wat toe na vore gekom het. En ek moet sê, met groot dankbaarheid, is daar na die PNT toe die Proteïen Navorsingsstichting in die lewe geroep, wat 'n autonome liggaam is onder beskerming van direkteure en wat hulle werk baie goed doen. As ek nou vanaand moet kyk op 'n afstand, dan sien ek 'n groep baie bekwame manne. Bekwaam in die opsig van die landbouwetenskappe, bekwaam in die beginsels van projekbestuur. Ek sien dat hulle in staat is om knelpunte te identifiseer. Hulle kan prioriteite bepaal. Hulle kan besluit wie die navorsing behoort te doen. Hulle kan daai navorsing finansier. Hulle kan die vordering monitor en hulle kan kyk dat hierdie werk tot sy logiese konsekwensies uitgevoer word en gepubliseer word. En hier is nou nie vanaand die boek hier, maar die baanrekord is daar vir almal om te sien hoe dat hierdie resultate na vore kom. En daarom is my eerste aanmerking vanaand, meneer Skoltenmeijer, baie geluk dat julle nog steeds op die pad is van dit wat ek glo, die oorspronklike stigterslede van daai advieskomitee in gedagte gehad het. Weereens, miskien nie eksplisiet nie, maar sekerlik in beginsel. Die tweede wat ek wil sê, dit is baie kort. Is baie dankie dat u ons genooi het. Jy weet, in Afrikaans het ons 'n spreekwoord wat sê, uit die oog, uit die hart. Nou ons ou toppies is nou sekerlik al lankal uit die oog uit, hè Hans? As ek hier so kyk, ons almal maar uit die oog uit, maar lyk vir my nog uit die hart uit. En hulle het ons onthou om ons te nooi vir hierdie funksie vanaand, die 35-jarige herdenking. En ek sê baie dankie daarvoor. Ek sê ook dankie vir die styl waarin dit gedoen word. Dis 'n kristal en kandelaar aand wat ons sekerlik lank sal onthou. Ek sê ook dankie vir die logistieke reëlings wat getref is om ons veilig hier te kry en veilig by die huis. Ons moet nog by die huis kom. Maar ek is seker daarvan, ons is in goeie hande. Ek het net een woordjie nadat ek dankie gesê het, en dit is, ek dink een van die grootste uitdagings by die Proteïen Navorsingstrust stigting is om te verseker dat daar kontinuïteit is. Die generasies gaan ook verby, hulle word ouer, en dat daar die regte opvolgaksie is. Ek is seker daarvan dat 'n mens kan daar op straat maak, gesien in die baanrek op dit dusver. Met daai paar woorde sê ek vir u dankie en ek groet u en ek sê buenas noches amigo.
Thank you, Carlos. Dr. Bagalki referred to his preferences. Hy sê hy dink op sy voete. That reminds me of the story of I heard from a friend that he was sued by his wife for divorce. And the grounds of the application was the fact that he had flat feet. So obviously I couldn't understand it. I later found out that his feet were too often in the wrong flat. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to conclude. And it's been the policy of the PRF to appoint board members with specific knowledge required by the PRF to further activities. And all the board members of the past 25 years made huge contributions to the success that we look back upon. Like the late Frans Potgieter, who told some of his fellow farmers who asked him shortly after he was appointed whether he enjoyed being a member of the PRF. He replied to the affirmative, but he also added the following: "You must just know that if you accept the invitation to serve on the PRF board, you must be prepared to work bloody hard." Now, Stephen Vincent Benet once said, "Grant us brotherhood, not only for this day, but for all our years. A brotherhood not of words, but of acts and deeds." Now, this brotherhood of acts and deeds, who contributed to the success of the PRF in the past 25 years, does not exist only of board members and staff. We are extremely privileged to have had so many collaborators and supporters who are also prepared to work bloody hard. And obviously we think of all the researchers and the research institutions, the universities and the other tertiary institutions, government, provincial departments, and then all the supporting services, for example, the press, all the agencies who supported us with technology, like InfoWorks, producer bodies, for example, Grain South Africa, Agri South Africa, SAGAS, Grain Laboratory, NAMC, the commodity trusts. Obviously, I refer especially to the Oil and Protein Seeds Development Trusts, the cooperatives and the agricultural companies, seed, chemical and equipment companies, distributors, SAFEX, our fund managers, auditors and attorneys, and everybody else whom I did not yet mention by name. And a special word of thanks, Gerard's also referred to it already, to Contemporary Events and everybody that they involved again for this function. We really appreciate. And finally, certainly, I know how hard our staff worked. And there comes a time when you don't really know how to say thank you. You just say thank you to Gerard, to you and your staff, Maria. We really sincerely appreciate everything you did to make this function a success. To all of you, we wish to thank you from the PRF side for your contributions to make South Africa a better place for all its inhabitants. And now I wish to give you a few good reasons to fill your glasses, to lift your glasses, share a toast with us. And I want to raise a few highlights that we achieved the past 18 months. You may know that the PRF has as its main aim to replace imported protein for animal nutrition with locally produced protein. And right from the beginning, we were battling to achieve 35% of total requirements but locally produced. Fish meal disappeared largely. But despite that, last year we succeeded for the first time to produce more than 50% of the requirements locally. It certainly looks as if it's going to be the same case this year, and we are aiming at self-sufficiency very soon after 2000, if not 2020, if not during 2020. Canola has certainly proved its worth. We've had 121,000 tons on 95,000 hectares, and obviously the aspect which certainly warrants another glass or two is the fact that South Africa finally managed to exceed the 1 million ton mark with regards to soybean production the past season. Couldn't have come in a better year for us. We are certainly working on our 2020 target already of 2.5 million tons on more than 1 million hectares. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, the 25-year celebrations in its own right warrants a toast. I ask you to please drink a toast with us to the PRF. So thank you to everybody. PRF.